Yo, welcome to the latest edition of the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. I'm your host of the man behind the mic, K-Sap, where we cover sports, roundtable talk, and the marriage chronicles. I want to thank everybody that's tuned in. I want to thank everybody that's supporting the podcast. I want to thank everybody that's sharing the podcast. And you know what my mantra is? Hey, tell a friend to tell a friend. It might not be for you, but it might be for somebody else. I see everybody in the comments. Hashtag salute. I respond to all comments, and I appreciate everybody that's supporting us. Today's episode, things are getting kind of dicey between Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless. It's almost like a war of words now, and Stephen A. is not giving in, and Skip is not giving in. We're going to get off into that. And today's show is sponsored by.
This episode is sponsored by True Choice Insurance. Here at True Choice, we take a different philosophy when it comes to providing you with your insurance options. We emphasize the value of the products we offer, instead of playing on the fear of you not being protected in your time of need. True Choice is affiliated with more than 60 insurance companies. This makes us one of the most independent agencies in the state of Texas. Please visit TrueChoiceInsurance.com for all your insurance needs.
Appreciate Brian Kelly over there at True Choice Insurance. You guys look them up on the website at www.truechoiceinsurance.com. Get with him and his wife for all your insurance needs. Well, today's episode is kind of spicy. I've been keeping my eye on this ever since the new Undisputed aired last week, and the new First Take with the debut of Shannon Sharpe aired this week. If you guys remember when the new Undisputed dropped last week and Skip Bayless announced his dream team, he brought out 3 of his new co-stars. We're going to get off into that after this word and after the intro. Like I always say, DJ, kick the beat.
Yeah, Simply Ball Dropping. What's up, family? K-Sap, we up. Ain't no stopping. I'm simply ball dropping like it's New Year's Eve, making you haters believe I'm the MVP. Ask Mr. V and R&B, they do all sports, whether it's on the field or the court, from the arena to the ring. What? You want to swing? I roll the dope like the one on this boxing thing. That's the punchline. I'm the greatest of all times. Got something on your mind? Hit us up on the line for that round table talk. Ask B Hunt and Sheena and K-Sap 2 for their views on our news. Marriage Chronicles for you lovers. Oh, I'm married to the game. The championships, the only time I want to ring. K-Sap, the man behind the mic. Check 1, 2. It ain't a rap until I say it's a rap. Just fall through. Pull up the hottest pod smoking. Yeah, I got you open. This freestyle brought to you by James Ford. Paid promotion. Yeah, Simply Ball Dropping. You know what time it is. Pull up. Chop it up with your family, man. K-Sap, what up?
And now, your host of the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast, the man behind the mic, K-Sap.
Shout out to my man James IV for that hot intro. Today's show, man, as I've been sifting through the internet and reading a lot of things and looking at a lot of podcasts, man, I come across the hilarious that's going on between Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless. Like I said in the introduction, it's been a war of words. They're going back and forth with each other. So like I said, if you know, when the new Undisputed dropped, Stephen A. Smith announced his dream team. He brought on Keyshawn Johnson, Michael Irvin, and Richard Sherman. And when he announced Richard Sherman, they did a segment to start the show of the incident that took place back in 2011. One first take between Skip Bayless and Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman really dug off in Skip's ass. said he wasn't smart, he wasn't intelligent. Now, we all know Richard Sherman at the time was playing with the Seattle Seahawks. And, he's a graduate, from Stanford. So he got a high IQ. So he was telling Skip that he didn't mean nothing. He wasn't nothing. And he was just, talking to be talking. And Richard Sherman really dug off in his ass. So they had to, straighten things out because they're partners now. So Stephen A. recently was on Club Shay Shay. He was the first guest on Club Shay Shay when Shay Shay partnered up with The Volume. And Stephen A. was his first guest. And that was a great segue into leading up to Shannon Sharpe's debut on First Take. But there's a lot of things that Shannon Sharpe and Stephen A. talked about. And they cleared the air on a lot of things. Yes, they got into their debate about LeBron and Michael Jordan, which I thought was really entertaining. That was, bigging up, what we're going to see on First Take when it comes to basketball season, when they're talking about basketball, when that Jordan and LeBron conversation comes up, because, anytime LeBron does anything special out there, especially going into his 21st season at 39 years old, they're going to talk about some things. So that debate is going to come up. And as the season approaches and further along in the season, if they make a deep playoff run, it's going to pick up steam and they're going to talk about it even more. So I thought that was pretty, monumental that they talked about that and what Shannon Sharpe's perspective was against somebody like a Stephen A. Smith when they debated it. But Stephen A. Smith, I think he held his own, and I think Stephen A. Smith made some valid points. But Stephen A. Smith, they also talked about reasonings why they got away from Skip Bayless as well. And Stephen A. has been known in the past not to really bash, Skip Bayless, but he would say his points, and you would have to read in between the lines. He was saying a lot, but he wasn't saying enough. But a lot of people understood where Stephen A. Smith was coming from with his point with Skip Bayless, because as you know, he featured with Skip Bayless on First Take, and Stephen A. really got his name on First Take, and he blew up from there. But his accolades speak for itself. Journalism, Philly Inquirer, he covered Allen Iverson back in the days, and Stephen A. Smith is a knowledgeable man, so he grew up through the rebels of it. And when the dust cleared, he's sitting really on the pinnacle now. He's sitting on the Mount Rushmore of, debaters and, sports analysts and broadcasters. And he got a podcast and he speaks very eloquently. So Stephen A. Smith he's top tier. He's well respected in the game. So they was talking about that. It's a lot of things that they cleared the air. Also, Shannon Sharpe said the last 6 months with Skip Bayless, he didn't want to let 6 months of badness and sourness and sour taste affect 7 years that he was with Skip. But Stephen A., he comes out and says a lot. So basically, Stephen A. made some comments and Skip Bayless took exception to it. So Skip Bayless, on his recent podcast, he wanted to address some things that Stephen A. said when it came to that interview with Richard Sherman back in 2011, where they had to clear the air. So I'm going to play a little clip. We're going to listen to what Stephen A. said, and we're going to listen to what Skip Bayless said. But first, we're going to take a listen to what Skip Bayless said.
When he revises history about early First Take, I'm going to respond. When he says that I told the truth about something, but not the whole truth about that something, then I am going to tell the utterly complete truth about that something, as I'm about to do right now. And then Stephen A. subsequently, I'm pretty sure it was on his podcast, made the case that I was a big reason that we were on probation. He also took some blame on himself because he had been suspended, he said, over some remarks he'd made about the Ray Rice situation. Well, it's true he was suspended, but just for the record, that happened a year and a half after Richard Sherman happened. So that suspension had nothing to do with us being on probation at this point, March the 7th, 2013. I'll get to the why of it in just a moment. But Stephen A. is saying that the bosses at ESPN did not like my Tim Tebow coverage, and that was a reason, if not a big reason, that we were on probation in March of 2013. By the way, my Tim Tebow coverage happened 2 football seasons back, 2 back, in 2011. And again, Richard Sherman happened March the 7th of 2013. So I'm going to quote Stephen A. Again, I think it's from his podcast. He says, that's the part that Skip left out. I wasn't the only reason that probationary period per se, for that probationary period per se. It existed because the network wanted to make sure that our show wasn't one that just generated ratings, but one that didn't cause them embarrassment and shame. Stephen A. goes on to say, the public had accused Skip Bayless of being a caricature of himself. And even though Skip was very proud of his Tim Tebow coverage, the bosses weren't necessarily enamored with it.
Now you hear what Skip Bayless had to say. And let me give you a little backstory on that. 2011 on First Take, Richard Sherman appeared on there. And basically what Skip is saying is Skip got caught off guard of the way Richard Sherman attacked him. That's basically in a nutshell what he's saying. And the reason being that Skip really couldn't get off into him because they was on probation. But they was on probation for a reason. And when things come out like that, I know it's been 12 years ago, but Stephen A. Smith is going to, tell the truth. Stephen A. Smith is not afraid to say what's on his mind and to say what he's feeling and to say what the issue was. But the way Skip is downplaying it because he's saying that Richard Sherman, he was all a go, but Skip Bayless really couldn't say nothing due to the fact that they was on probation and he had to be on his best behavior. So basically what Skip is saying, he really let, Richard Sherman get off in him and, he couldn't defend himself because of the probationary period. But there was a reason why they was on probation. Like I said, Skip Bayless took some exceptions to what, Stephen A. said on his podcast. But, Skip Bayless, he leaves a lot of things out and he goes on and says in this segment we're about to listen to that they was on probation and he wasn't the reason why they was on probation. And Stephen A. took exception to that. And he said, no, Skip, here's the truth. You left some things out. So let's listen to what Stephen A. had to say.
Bayless, in introducing Richard Sherman, wanted to revisit how things had unfolded and what exactly was going on at the time that Richard Sherman decided to try to undress him on national television on First Take 11 years ago in the year 2012. Take a look.
Now, more backstory from my side. First Take at that point was on probation because we had had several incidents, fortunately not involving me. But we were one day away from our audition period trying to stay clean. So I'm thinking quickly as you come after me, oh my God, this is terrible, because Stephen A. badly wanted to get an afternoon slot so that he could sleep a little longer because he goes late to the games and goes to a lot of games. I'm pulling for him and for us to get it. So I am dancing as fast as I can thinking, I can't really fight fire with my usual fire, or this is going to blow up, not that it hadn't already.
Right.
Skip Bayless told the truth. We were in dicey situations. No doubt about it. He did not lie to y'all. If you remember, I was considered a relatively controversial individual. And obviously I ruffled feathers from time to time, no doubt. There's a lot of mistakes that I made in my career. And there's no doubt about that. When I uttered, when I misspoke, speaking about the Ray Rice situation, and I didn't articulate my thoughts as cogently as I should have, I had an issue there. But I want to remind everybody, I wasn't the only reason. The part that Skip Bayless did not say is that although First Take had climbed the charts and was really establishing ourselves as the flagship show of the network as opposed to Sports Center, where we were en route to doing that, the part that Skip Bayless left out was the fact that the bosses at the time didn't care. They had remembered that Skip Bayless lived off of talking about Tim Tebow every day before I arrived. They had accused Skip Bayless, meaning the public, of being a caricature of himself.
Now you heard what Stephen A. said. And basically, that clip that y'all just listened to was Skip Bayless talking to Richard Sherman last week when New Undisputed aired, airing out their grievances. And basically, you heard Skip Bayless say that they was on probation. It had nothing to do with him. But I beg to differ, because Stephen A. goes along the lines and says, oh, no, Skip, you left some things out. Come clean. You was part of the probation. You was part of the problem. We all know Stephen A. Smith's mouth. Like he said, he's rough around the edges. And like he said, he admitted he spoke a little reckless on the Ray Rice situation, which got him ultimately suspended. But Skip Bayless, you're not clean. So basically, Skip is saying that he had nothing to do with the probationary period. But Stephen A. Smith said, yes, you did. Now, if y'all guys go back and think the Damar Hamlin situation, and Shannon Sharpe was visibly absent the next day when that Hamlin situation happened because of some of the insensitive tweets that Skip Bayless put out. And you remember when Shannon came back on the show and he wanted to address the reason why he wasn't there, because he felt bad about the situation that happened to Damar Hamlin. And he addressed some things. And Skip would not let him get out his segment. And if you listen to what Shannon Sharpe said about the tweets that Skip Bayless put out there, and he said some of the management wanted Skip Bayless to take the tweets down. And Skip said, no, nobody said that to me. Shannon was like, yes, they did. They had a problem with your tweets. So that goes to show that Skip Bayless thinks he's innocent in everything that happens. And basically, Shannon Sharpe, from that point on, from the little constant digs that Skip Bayless, dug at Shannon Sharpe about his playing days, the Tom Brady stuff, the insensitivity, it just was too much. But Shannon Sharpe said on the podcast with Stephen A. Smith, he wasn't going to let 6 months ruin 7 years of the career that they spent together on Undisputed. And if y'all guys go back and look at the podcast that he had with Tabitha Brown knew something was wrong, and she said she prayed and had a dream that everything was going to be okay. And from there, Shannon Sharpe moved on from Undisputed. And now he's with ESPN First Take and Stephen A. Smith. But everything's going to come out. And I just hope Shannon Sharpe opens up and speaks his piece about the real reason why he left Undisputed. You know, Skip Bayless put Stephen A. Smith on, and Stephen A. Smith launched his career even bigger. He put Shannon Sharpe on, and I feel that Skip Bayless was a little jealous because Shannon was getting a little too big for him. Now Shannon Sharpe moved on. And now First Take, their ratings in the first week are through the roof. Undisputed's ratings in the first week was down. So it's a war of words now, and it's on, and I'm all here for it. So you guys let me know in the comments what you think. What y'all think the real reason why Shannon Sharpe left Undisputed, and what you think about what Stephen A. said when Skip Bayless said he had nothing to do with the probation. It's getting dicey, y'all. So let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share the podcast. Tell a friend. Tell a friend. It's going to wrap up another episode of the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. I'm your host and the man behind the mic, K-Sap. Catch you on the next one. Deuces.
Thanks for listening to the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share on all major platforms.